Welcome to Brand on the Rocks, where we take bold ideas and distill them into clear messaging straight up. Today is an On the Rocks episode, and in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down 4 ways that business stories, well, frankly, that they break and fall apart and don't work to connect you to your audience, and how you can fix them so that customers lean in and take action rather than bailing and walking away immediately. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Welcome to Brand on the Rocks, the podcast that distills bold ideas into clear messages you can actually use. Each week, we serve up conversations, audits, and straight pours of insight to help you cut through the noise and grow your business. Hosted by brand strategist Ryan Holck, this is where clarity comes neat and your brand gets remembered. I grew up in the Central Valley of California, and we are known for 2 things. We are known for agriculture. 25-30% of the total number of fruits, vegetables, things that are grown worldwide, we're known as the fruit basket of the world, are grown within a radius of where I grew up. So we're known for that, and we're also known for fog. Now, valley fog is kind of weird, and it's weird because there's a couple different kinds, but if you've never experienced it, there's this fog that almost looks like cloud cover that hangs up in the low atmosphere and creates really this weird haze where everything's kind of blue-gray. We're actually we've had 1 day of sun, I think it is, in 3 to 4 weeks, where we've just had this gray haze garbage that is blocking our ability to see the sky. And then there also is ground fog. And ground fog is where it comes down and rests essentially right on the ground, where visibility and clarity becomes a problem. It's not unusual when you get thick ground fog, which is you got just the right combination of things happening, that when you're driving in it, you can have visibility that's only like 5 or 6 feet beyond the length of your car. I can remember as a kid driving home late with my mom on more than one occasion where a drive that usually took 15 minutes took almost an hour because visibility was so bad and you had to roll your windows down and listen for people and if there was other cars coming, and be really careful at intersections, those type of things. But the interesting thing is that most of us drive our marketing as if we're in ground fog. In our heads, our message is pretty close. There's just a little bit of mist. So we go ahead and start sharing. But for our customers, it is a complete whiteout. They're in this ground fog going, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. I am lost. And so today, this episode really is going to be about clearing that fog so that the right people can see you and can say yes to your products and services. If you are in a place where you have never taken the time to think about how clear is our message? Is there any mist to it? Is there a fog between us and our ideal customers? This is the right place to be today, because to clear the fog, we have to start with the thing that none of us want to admit. And that is that we aren't anywhere near as clear as we think we are. You know your backstory. You know the story of your business. You know with intricacy all the things you do, all the ways that you help customers, all the ways you make their lives better. You know how long it took you to get here, your whole story. Well, that 10, 15, 20 years of backstory, the person you're talking to, the person you're marketing to, the person across the table from you in a sales meeting doesn't have that context. They've got the 10 seconds of your introduction. They have the 2 minutes of your quick story that you share with them to catch up to date. So if your story is unclear in those moments that you have with them, you're going to lose them. That's the problem with so many of the people I serve. It's a problem with so many of the brands, so many of the small businesses, the coaches and consultants, because we get on stage and we share and we're gung-ho about it. but the message isn't clear. And if you've ever sat at an event, if you've ever been to a meetup and you're being introduced to people, or someone is on a stage and they have, 30 seconds to share a little about yourself, and you're going, I don't understand a word that person just said. You're not alone. The idea is you want to be so clear that someone would walk up to you later, that they'd want to ask a question. So I've got a question for you. Where does your story go off the rails? The reality is that for most of us, our stories tend to break in 4 predictable ways. And I want to dive into this really as an application for this idea of fog between us and our ideal customers. So there's 4 key places. The first is that our story is incomplete. And what makes our story incomplete is not that we don't know it. It's that we don't articulate it. We either don't have a clear audience, we aren't really clearly talking about the problem we solve, or we have not identified the win and the ways we make life better for people in a way that actually communicates to our ideal customer. People can't place themselves in our story, so they're confused. They're going, I think I understand what you're saying. I understand little bits and pieces, but I have so many questions. And so one of the things that you can begin to do is begin to think about, if I had no knowledge about my business, if I was on the outside looking in, what are the bare minimum things that I would need to know to be able to engage and do business with me? Have we clearly said, this is who we serve best? Have we clearly said what problem we solve? Have we clearly said what win and benefit are we actually providing to people so that they can know? The second place where stories tend to break down is, frankly, that they're just confusing. And what makes a story confusing is that we overshare. I tend to be an oversharer. I constantly have to be thinking, did I really need to share all those details? What details here are important? What details here are not? If I'm in the midst of a story, I'm looking at the people I'm speaking to and thinking, have I lost them? Are they tracking with me? Is there something I'm currently saying that is not connecting, that needs greater clarification? And so if you can begin to think about, how am I maybe confusing people? Have I shared too much? Is it overshare? Is it that I'm being clever? I'm trying to, find something cool and some pithy way to help you remember it, but I've gotten so clever that it's not even going to be understood. Growing up, one of the ways that my mom used to help us prepare for tests is that she would give us acronyms and little creative ways to remember bits of information. There was some saying that if you remember this, then you'll know the facts for, that piece of the test and those type of things. My problem was that those ideas were usually so clever that they were harder for me to remember the clever idea than it was to just remember the concept. And so often I'd kind of just have to go, I understand that this is supposed to help me, but in the moment, it's actually not helping me. And I think that's really actually a great example of what so many of us do in our businesses is we get into a conversation and we throw out acronyms and we throw out explanations, and the person we're talking to, or the person who's reading our text via a text message or an email or the actual copy on our website, is going, I don't understand. I don't understand. You're confusing me because you're trying to give me something to hang on to, but why not just tell me? This week I had a consulting call with someone and we were talking through how could they add some content to their website in a new section, but have it still be clear for the reader and the visitors to their site. And as we were reviewing content, one of the things we looked at was a page where they had made up a word. And the reason they had made up the word was the concept was a combination of two things. But what it came down to at its heart was they were talking about using AI to clone voices and help with auto translation. Well, AI is a concept a lot of people are hearing about, at least thinking about, they understand. Translation into foreign languages so your site or your information can be understood by more people, that's a commonly held idea. But they came up with this weird word based on the technical process that it took to actually deliver their product or service. And as a result, it completely confused people. And I finally said, why don't you just call it what it is? It's AI voice cloning. Why have you made this so difficult? You have gotten clever, and in your being clever, no one will understand it. You, in fact, picked a word that, first of all, technically doesn't exist, and the closest word to it has actually a medical connection, which means anyone who mistypes it is going to find something that means something really different. You're confusing your reader in your effort to be clever and come up with something cool. The other way we can confuse people is that it's too insider language. This was really a problem when I serve a lot of nonprofits. Is we've got all these fun ways that we meet needs and we serve people, but we oftentimes explain them in ways that make sense to us, but not to people who actually need our services. It's kind of like loving a sport, and you walk up to a group of people talking about baseball or a group of people talking about football, and they're talking about the refs or the umps and what happened in the game. And did you see this? And all of a sudden, people who don't understand the details of that specific sport are lost in a moment. I'm one of those. I enjoy football. Don't ask me for specifics on what the refs have to do and why that worked and it didn't in a play. I'm not with you. I'm not going to follow with you. And we tend to overcomplicate our stories, the things we're sharing about our business, by adding those kind of bits of information. The third way that our stories break down is that they're not actionable. Essentially, we get up and we start talking about our business. We start sharing information on our website, and all we do is talk. It is a one-way street. At no point do we pause and say, are you with me? At no point do we pause and say, if this sounds good, take this action. We don't articulate a clear next step, a simple opportunity for people to engage with next. There's no default action built in, so they don't know what to do. Often I see people miss opportunities to close deals, miss opportunities to get leads on their website, miss opportunities when they're standing in front of a group of people on a stage or they're face to face in a meetup, because the person they're talking to goes, oh, that's really pretty cool. But they do not have in their mind a plan for how am I going to collect your information? What am I going to ask you to do? Do I just need your business card? Because, well, that's pretty simple, but if you don't ask, you won't get it. Do I need you to scan a QR code and go visit something, fill out a form to start the process? Do I need you to whatever? But knowing what is the next step, we haven't made our story actionable so people don't take action, not because they aren't connected, but because we haven't given them the opportunity. The fourth way that stories break down is that they don't lead to results. We have a cute story. We have a fun something that sounds great when it's being shared, but we've never gone back and thought, why did I pick that story? Is that the right story to be sharing right now in this moment? Is it driving revenue? Is it driving impact in our organization? Websites are one of the places where I see this a lot. I've been working on a site for someone who is struggling to put into writing the story of their business. They came to me and said, we don't want to hire you to help with copy. We don't want to hire one of your connections to help us. Give us an outline of what's needed and we'll take care of it. Well, they got into the midst of it and we're building the site and the site looks nice and they're supposed to be writing content and it's not getting written. And it's not getting written. And we've taken outlines and we've taken structures and said, Here's the 3 questions this section needs to answer. Can you just tell us in your own words, how does your business answer these 3 things? What do they do? And it's been a struggle for them. And the reason it's a struggle for them is because they've never thought about it in a constructive way. They've always just said, "Here's our cool services." And they have a list of people who have always called because they're trying to solve a specific problem. But they've never thought about, if this isn't someone who has that exact pain point, how would I talk to them about our products and services? How would I explain why this is important to their business? Because frankly, they provide a service that will keep business owners out of jail and keep them out of trouble with the government. It's a needed resource, but they've never taken the time to think about, how is the story we're telling driving people to get results? As a result, their website struggles to get clicks. Their website struggles. It looks beautiful, but a beautiful website does not mean a functioning, working website. It just means it's pretty. The words are what completes the entire piece, where your story connects with the reader, where they get enough information to go, I think I should call these people because they're going to solve my problem. So I'm curious, if you had to circle one of those 4 things: your story is incomplete, your story is somehow confusing, it's not actionable, it doesn't lead to results. What do you feel like is your biggest gap today? Which of those 4 would be your biggest gap in your business? One of the things that I oftentimes help businesses with is that they call and they're having a struggle with one of these areas, but they aren't sure. They can't actually articulate it. We have a messaging problem. Our marketing's not working. Something about our story is disconnected. Can you help us? Well, part of clearing that fog is helping them get into their own story and think about what needs to be shared, what's most important, by really bringing some clarity. And a lot of it's a process. Some of it is just conversation. I'm realized more and more recently that some people just takes asking the right questions and them beginning to process in a different way and going, that's where it's unclear, because someone took the time to ask the right questions to help them get clarity about it, so they can then turn around and go, then I need to share it this way. And the story, it was there all along. It just took some work. Other times it takes a couple rounds of actually helping them write it down so it gets better. It comes down to breaking through those 4 key things. Really comes down to an idea that I keep circling back to, and I talked about it in a previous episode. It was episode 1 or 2 of the podcast, really, where I broke down my framework to help clear the fog, and it starts with your audience, your problem, your solution, and your win. And that framework, I kind of alluded to it in that episode about the fact that there's 4 almost ridiculous questions that will help make a significant difference in your business. And they're questions connected to those 4 things. And oftentimes what I will do is I'll ask those questions, and I'll ask leading questions to help people figure out a little more about where they're actually stuck. What is it? How does it pertain to where the business is today? But those big idea questions, your audience, your problem, your solution, and your win. It's amazing to me how many businesses know those things intuitively, but cannot articulate them in a way where their ideal customer goes, oh, I think they're talking to me. One of the businesses that I served several years ago in a marketing leadership capacity was a solar green energy company. And we worked through some of this process with them. Was, all right, how can we articulate? You do like 8 things. How do we articulate each of them so that when someone has a need for that specific version of your green energy solution, they know they're in the right place. They know why you guys are so much better than all the other shops in town. They know why you're still around 15 years later when the other guy down the street has changed names 3 times. even though they're technically serving the same, why they keep closing, why they can't keep open. And it came down to this simple little framework is, have you ever problem? I help name your audience with this solution so that they get this win. We applied that little 2-sentence structure and we came up with this. Have you ever tried to keep your swimming pool warm in the spring and fall? I help homeowners with pools find affordable solar heating solutions so they can enjoy their yard and pool an extra 3 months out of the year. What did those 2 sentences do? They told you who we are, what we do, the way we make your life better, why we're valuable, and the best choice. It instantly took their vague story, and I'm just going to tell you, they had paragraphs and pages of information on their website that meant nothing to anyone because no one got past the first hero section of the website until we put that up. And then they're like, oh, no, that makes totally sense. Yep, okay, I have that problem. I want a longer summertime. I want more time in my pool. I made this investment. Okay. So the reality is that sometimes you've got to get into the mess of your story, get a little messy, get a little bit into the fog of what's keeping you from being clear with your ideal customer, and get the clarity, remove the mist that is in your mind that's coming out being heard as fog of misunderstanding. My question is, can you fill in those 4 blanks in just a couple minutes? Could you write down the 4 words, audience, problem, solution, win, and articulate what it is in your business, where in your business, how you fill in those gaps? Okay. Um, if not, what part feels the hardest to define? Which of those 4 is difficult for you to define? Because once you get clarity on it, once you can get your core idea down to a sentence or 2, everything else becomes much clearer. It's easier then to add stories, add support, we should talk about these 3 benefits, these 3 factors in our business. Once it's clear, everything else starts to align. You can go after client testimonials because you can ask the right question rather than give us a testimonial and say, hey, can you tell us how we helped you do this? And they go, oh yeah, no, I could answer. So this has kind of been an overview of how to clear the fog. Some of the ways, the 4 ways specifically, that our stories tend to break down. And on a future episode, we're going to talk about kind of proof and culture and some examples that I've got from some current clients about how we are building those in or rebuilding them in to their story. This has been another On the Rocks episode of the Brand on the Rocks podcast. If your business feels like it's stuck in fog, where clarity is a challenge for you, start with your story. Figure out how to make it complete, how to make it simple, actionable, and tied to real results. Go ask people you trust who will tell you the truth, what is and isn't clear about the stories that you're telling in your business. Take a moment, fill out the audience, problem, solution, win sentence that I mentioned in this episode. Take those ideas, look at a page of your website, look at your LinkedIn page, look at your social content and think, if I read this, is it clear that these are the things I do? Is it clear it's the people I'm talking to? And if you want help clearing the fog, this is the work that I love doing. I love sitting with people, spending time figuring out how can we more clearly tell your story. But even if we never talk, don't stay in the fog. Don't spend another day living in the valley fog. Your story is too important to stay hidden. It's too important for it to be feet away from the person who needs it and them not to understand. As always, I thank you for listening. And until next time, keep your ideas bold, your message clear, straight up.